Check, check, 1, 2. Alright, it is Friday evening, September 20th at the point of recording. This is this weekend's review as well as week to come. So let's get right into it. So we have the ES monthly chart here. Just going to do a little recap. We have this nice cup and handle, you could say. Flow to it. Previous month we got August, massive wick down, previous all-time highs, bought up, and then we have July, is it? Yep, July's range, the low of this month currently bought up just nice at the low of it, and we are now pushing higher. As you can see, we just created all-time highs this month, and I've mentioned this in the previous updates. I don't like when we make all-time highs and we pull back. I like to see a push into all-time highs and a continuation. I'll show you when we drill down on a lower time frame how in the past this year, how many times we have basically faked out. But so I hope that's not the case. I hope we end up pushing through, and then end up finally having strength rather than doing one of these and getting caught in a range. So once again, just to recap, very nice absorption here at previous all-time highs last month, and then higher low of the big buyers. On the weekly, this pivot high right here, I'll put a price level to show you guys at 57.30. That was a key level to break. We finally broke it. Just to go over a few weeks back, trend line break, higher low push, very nice. And then just to recap a little more, you know, this is that wick from here, bought up beautifully in a zone, and then this would be the wick from here, bought up beautifully again. If you watch the channel frequently, you know I love to pay attention to the ATR over time. Peaked on ES at 115, currently at 41 today, but the ATR is currently at 80. This is between 80 and 50 is personally in my sweet spot. Now, volume is also another factor. So for sweet spot, you have volatility, which would be the range, and then daily volume. So this is just one of those measurements to find of a sweet spot, but this is where I like to see it, the range at 80 points on ES, 50 to 80. So today was a little low for my liking, that's for sure. But being a Friday, that's normal a lot of the times, as well as you know, being OPEX and things like that. So, but on this time frame, we have on the daily swing high to low, the 50% fib and the 61% golden fib, bought up, and we put in all-time highs. Now, haven't seen any follow through yet, so I don't like that, but if you do look to create the all-time highs, we had to have a massive push, which was 106 points. So really, when you're in a range and you're looking for a breakout, ideally you want to have the breakout start from up here. So for example, we'd have a new day candle on Monday start and then end up doing, so say we open here Sunday night, go down a little bit, and then end up pushing higher and create a 3-bar play. because, you know, when you're down here, push up, it's hard to put words to it, but it takes a lot more force, and if there were MAs, here, I'll put the MAs up, you'd be a lot more extended. See, so up here, look how far you'd be from the 9. So yeah, on the daily, really just the key is the 50% of the range getting bought up. Beautiful high or low here from here. And another thing, this fair value gap here, and slash this high of day. We kept top ticking and failing. We finally broke that, and now we closed a daily candle above. It's a red one. I'd like to see us close more green ones above it, but hey, take what you can get. So we finally cleared this fair value gap. And I talked about in previous episodes how I put the pivot on, I drew this pivot zone here. I could have drawn it here, which there's no wrong way of doing it, but that's just how I preferred to do it, and then mark this as its own level to watch, as well as the fair value gap. So one thing just to be aware of is, like I said on the monthly time frame is us doing a top tick, turning this into a top tick, and then coming back down into a range, and then we could end up, you know, ranging in here. People forget how long you can spend in a range. I mean, what was it? Look at this. Look how long we spent in a 1,000-point range. So if we were to range in here, this would be a 600-point range. So definitely want to accept out. Otherwise, we're coming back down in, and we're going to spend more time putting volume in these lower nodes, which I do not want to see. On the 4-hour, I'm going to go back a little bit because sorry guys, I missed last week's update. So these green boxes are RTH, overnight gaps created. If they're there, they have not been fully filled during RTH. We have an overnight gap created, went up, then created a box, aka a range or balance. Bottom ticked it, which ended up grabbing liquidity, ran to the highs, and then right here when we melted from the top, we created a gap. Let me draw the midline on that. And as you can see, this gap was significant. Technically, most gaps I don't delete until a body closes out of it, but technically this gap was closed on this day because we traded RTH price action out of it. But so going further, broke out of the balance, created another overnight gap, instantly filled though. Moved down into this upward gap, could not take it out in RTH. And then let me just show you on the 30-minute. We had a Globex gap up right here in the purple. That's what that is. And as you can see, almost came to it, but could not. So right here, not only were we supported by the historic previous upward gap from a couple weeks ago, created another one to stack on top of it. And when we did melt down, I forgot what kind of data was on this day, but this is a 4-hour candle, and if you look at the crazy wick on that, just below the 50% mark, it was absorbed. Now, let me put this into quadrants. So yeah, we took out the first 3 quadrants, but still have the final 25% of that one remaining. So went down, got bought up. Overnight gap created, filled instantly. Overnight gap created, opened up, could not get to the midpoint. Looks like we took out the first 25% quadrant. That's it. Went up, and you could say another thing I did not mention is finally made our way back into the previous range, aka box. Top ticked it, top ticked it again. Just grab it, churn in liquidity for a final breakout. And you could say this is a box in a box and play it that way. That's getting very into nuance, so I'm not going to dig too deep into that. And as you can see, initially there were sellers here, and then very quickly they flipped into buyers. And then Wednesday night, after FOMC, massive gap up. And then last night we had right here, gap down. So on 2 days price action, the low of day was just below the mid of Wednesday evening's gap. They failed to take it out, which is bullish. And then they pushed upward, and they could not fully take out the downward gap. So we're stuck in the middle between the two, and I'll show you a better view on the 30-minute. So this is that FOMC, post-FOMC gap, grinded up all night, and then grinded down, creating a gap and a gap. Pushed down, bought at the mid of the upward FOMC gap, but then when we pushed back up, so when we pushed down, got bought at the 50% of the upward FOMC gap, that's very bullish, but we failed to take out this downward gap, so that pretty much neutralizes it, and now we're in balance, as you can see. And if I draw a profile over this, perfect balanced curve. Definitely don't like that. There's definitely a guy sitting here just selling with size all day. But love how whoever's down here buying, the bid has been getting raised. So, as you can see. So really, just making sure I'm not missing anything. Finally broke out of this, broke into the previous box, broke out of it. Now, I don't want to jump the gun too much, so just drilling down for you guys. These are weekly profiles. So last week, grind up, pull down, higher low from the open, grind up. And then this week, sideways, higher low, equal low, grind up, higher low. We will see if that holds. And for this month, we are still peaked out of last month's high. Okay, I like this. Last month's high. Closed a candle above it, so I'd like to see us remain above it. But I do not want to see us take this move back right here and reclaim this. So to go over levels on watch, obviously above we got 57.82 and the low of 54.86, which you can round these down to 85. That should go unspoken. Psychological levels. So basically, the high and low from July, and then as well as the low from this month, which is 54.50. On the weekly, watching old all-time highs at, we're going to call it 5,800 above, and then below 57.30, 56.80, and 56.70. And then if you want one more below, you can say 54.75. I'm actually going to draw a zone on that. Freshen these up a little bit, delete these. On the daily, and I know I'm repeating the same prices a lot. I'm going top down, so if you hear me say a price more than once, then that means that level is more important, aka stronger. But so couldn't create a fair value gap here. Really want to see us base above previous all-time highs. Doesn't have to look that clean either. I just want to see candles close and bodies put above previous all-time highs. I do not want to see daily bodies below, because we could be stuck in this range for a long time if we end up getting back in it and accepting in it. So for daily levels, obviously all-time highs at 5,800, 57.35 below, 56.90 zone, which the bottom of it's 56.70, 56.60, and below that, I'm gonna delete this. You got 5,600, and then say we get down to the 50% mark, 54.80. If that 50% mark doesn't hold, the probability is very high of testing the bottom of the range and seeking this liquidity. Now, just tightening these up a little bit. Now on the 4-hour, love these wicks. Want to see this previous supply getting bought up, this gap not filled, and us take out this. So I want to see this upward gap not filled and this downward gap taken out. And then not only taken out, but accept above it. And by accept, I mean either a high or low, or putting bodies or putting bodies above it. Just drilling down, same exact concept, but on a lower time frame. Do not want to see this gap get taken out. So this 50% mark at 57.30, we'll call it 57.30 to hold, and take out the high of the downward gap here at 57.75, which we take that out, accept above. And that's when we can worry about taking out 5,800. As you can see, this 30-minute wick, aggressive fast selling here. So this 780 to 760 zone has to be taken out for a bull case. And then holding, as I was saying, holding above previous month's high is key, which would be 57.30. And that's about it for ES. Let's see here. On NQ, we have the monthly here. I'll just do this for you guys. So looks a little different than ES. The absorption was not at the previous all-time highs, which is okay. It was in what you could call this zone or this zone perfectly. And you can see we have a range here, almost perfectly balanced. I want to see this month's candle close green, at least above this open, as well as close above that high. This is a target right here, which we'll go over in the next segment. Had a previous demand here, turned into supply again. Now we got a nice, let's see, zone was bought up, which we see on the monthly as we drill down. Now we potentially have a nice W higher low pattern forming to push higher. Love to see that. I'm gonna draw a zone there. Sorry guys, contract rollover happened, so I lost all my drawings, so I redrew them on ES, but not NQ. And then on the daily, zone here, failed. Nice higher low, 200s being bought, got our MAs crossing. Zone here. It's looking good. This supply here is now potentially flipping into demand. Supply, still supply. Break out of it, hit this supply and fail, and now this is potentially turning into demand. Gonna map that out and that out. Yeah, sorry, the NQ's a lot more sloppy. Like I said, I'm doing the drawings with you guys live on this one, so. On the 4 hour, rejecting at this curve right here, which is natural and expected to at least have trouble there. Kind of top tick this zone. Target would be this zone, aka all-time highs. Had a lot of trouble in this overnight gap. Downward gap created. Trouble, right at the midpoint. Couldn't put a body above it on the 4 hour. And we finally break above it. Not only that, but today, just like on ES, could not fill the downward gap. So that is good. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I want to take that back. We took it out, but we couldn't, so it flipped in, we had supply, flipped into demand. So I want to see us hold above that. Because what happened here, we had a downward gap taken out, and now that turned into a upward gap, which they failed to take out today in today's RTH session, as well as yesterday's. Draw some more levels. and I will clean these up as we get drilled down. So demand created, balance, buyers, big buyer, rally, base, got a new box. Look what happens, break out of the box, and it's now supporting. So I want to see this continue to support. And this is just the 30-minute view. So you can see we have that upward gap, and this is the 50% mark, almost right to it. NQ is not so much to the tick, that's just how it goes. And they bought it up just near the 50% mark. So let me tighten up these zones a little bit. Head supply here. Flipped into demand. Very nice. Could also draw demand here. Very, very nice. Now NQ this week started off in the previous week range. Last week, slow grind up, grab liquidity, churn it, and grind up. Base, slow grind up, open this week, ranging in it in a box. FOMC happens, and then later that night, grind up, and we are holding above it. And then on the monthly here, last month's high, unlike ES, we are inside last month's. Don't like that, but I do like how last month's has all this excess here, showing very big and fast buying here. So I do like to see that a lot. Do not want to see us create a lower low on this month, which would be us reclaiming this move here. So for levels on NQ, levels on NQ we have last month's high at 20,260, and then 19,080, and then 18,450, and then the absolute low line in the sand would be 17,590. On the weekly, must break above the zone that ranges from 20,000 to 22, with the low of it being 19,000, with the low of it being 20,000, and then zone above that starts at 20,080, 20,800 to all-time highs at 21,210, and below that we have the low of this week at 19,525, and then a zone that start top of it's 18,831 to 18,590, and then just below that, give or take, 17,750 to 17,600. Absolute must hold. If we lose this, I don't even want to think about that bull case. On the daily, technically have now been ranging for 64 days. So bull case, really need to see us get out of this range. Otherwise, as I was saying, I do not want to see us stay in a range. I do not like staying in ranges or balanced, but that's part of the market. Balanced until proven otherwise. So for levels above, we have this zone starting at 20,160. The bottom and the top of it, 20,400. Next zone bottoms 20,820. Top of that 21,30. And then 21,120 with the top of it all-time highs being 21,220. For the 4 hour, this upside gap I do not want to see filled, with below being 19,860 and then the absolute bottom being 19,630, and then the bottom of this box being 19,420. And then obviously above we have 20,225 and then all-time highs at 20,260. And then this current week's low must hold for bull case at 19,520. And last week's high, even more bullish to hold at 19,820. And also to break out of the previous month because we are still in an inside month. So to do that, we would need to break above 20,270. Now that is it for NQ levels. For data, we have a lot next week. I'm only showing medium and high impact. So Monday, let's see, I believe every day of the week we have high impact. We do. So Monday, I'm only reading the high impact. You can read the 2-star medium impact yourself. S&P Global, S&P PMI on Monday, as well as S&P PMI. Tuesday we have consumer confidence. That should be worth watching. New home sales on Wednesday. Crude oil inventories, obviously. Durable goods on Thursday. GDP quarter over quarter. Initial jobless claims, packed day. Powell speaking, 9:20. And then Friday, core PCE. So we have a lot of good red folder, aka high impact data for next week. So you can read these real quick, pause it, whatever. And we're gonna get into this. So in the individual stocks, and let me know in the comments if you like the longer videos or the shorter videos. I put the timestamps there for a reason, so I hope you guys don't mind them being long, because you can always fast forward or click the chapters, aka timestamps. So I'll get back to CrowdStrike, but here's VIX on the weekly. Can't accept out of this trend line yet, and by accept I mean hold bodies out of it. We're back in it, but give you a daily view. Still putting in higher lows, and technically we got this zone here. I don't know where my magnet went. Let's check the midline on that. So yeah, bounced right off the midline of this zone. So would not be surprised if we return to it. I will be watching how we react when we get here, because we did lose the low of this day. better view of that. Closed below the low of that. I do like to check out SPY and QQQ just to compare them to what we saw in ES and NQ. So gap up, doji, and then below. I do not like the gap up and doji, but not only do we have a green candle here from today, but low of day was to the tick of the previous all-time highs on SPY, and we closed green above it. So I do like that. Let's look at the weekly. This week closed above it. That is great. Now on the Qs, we have a zone here on the weekly. Now, did not close above this weekly zone, which we have failed to do so before, but this weekly zone held. Did not have a last week video, so I did not get to go over this. If you go to the daily, once again, gap up, not a doji, but a spinning top candle, which is essentially very close to a doji. And as you can see, this still a daily zone. It's that last zone we were looking at in the weekly. Top ticked and top ticked again. So we did not fill this gap, so I do like that for bull case, but must see us go higher. And we have a gap here that needs to be filled. And this gap here cannot be filled for bull case. I don't know what that line was. Have another zone here. So there's the Qs. Go over Bitcoin. Let's check our weekly fair value gaps. This weekly fair value gap, the mid, perfect to the tick. Holding. What is this here? Come on. Daily fair value gap still failing to take out, but so that's a target. Could be a potential draw on liquidity. Go down to the daily. Daily fair value gap has not been taken out because we have not closed a body below. Now I'd like to see us push above this supply zone here where we're struggling and seek this fair value gap to make our way to all-time highs. Gold, been ripping, finally broke out of this box I talked about in the review recap from 2 weeks ago. Created a box basing on previous all-time highs. Love to see it. No bodies below, just wick, signaling buying, could not fill the gap. Bunch of gaps up, engulfing candle. Got bought right up and shot up after FOMC. Check the weekly. Just very strong looking weekly. Let's check silver. I have to clean up the chart, so we'll go to the daily. This gap was not taken out, nor this zone. This gap flipped. Finally took it out by gapping above and closing above, and now it turned into a demand zone where buyers are, but I'm going to delete that. I'll redraw that into a zone like this. And now we have our supply here. And here. Go to the weekly. Love to see us closing with this wick here. We have a volume imbalance gap, which would look like this. Come on. So that shows strength. Love to see that. Dollar. Got a box going on here. That's the box. Quite a big one too. Go down to the daily. So if this zone were to break, I'd be worried about the dollar. Go to NVDA. This gap, although it was taken out, zone held, and then the gap immediately turned bullish. And so downward gap, and then just push up. Beautiful. Higher low again. Took out this gap, and it's looking a little flaggy. I don't like using the term flags because people put bullish or bear on it, but to me, I just use them to identify higher lows and everything. So we got higher low and higher low. That's about it. And we have higher high. Let's look at the weekly. Beautiful beautiful look to it. Would like to see how that pans out. SMCI. Weekly must hold above this. Starting to look better. Especially here. Target above would be this gap. And it looks like on the daily we swept the liquidity right here from this zone. So now I just want to see a higher high above this, crack these highs, and take out this gap. Let's see which one has more strength. Pretty equal from SMCI to NVIDIA. Tesla. Tried to get above the trend line, dip back down, higher low in this zone, and we have not taken out this gap yet, but we finally are closing above the 50% mark, so I'd love to see that. Let's look at the weekly. Weekly looks very good, higher low, pushing. Technically a higher high above this candle. So now target would be this zone to take out. And I really like Tesla long term because we have this nice pattern going here. Oops, sorry, I thought I had my tool. So broke the zone. Grab the liquidity, higher low, kind of got a nice potential W pattern look to it. I haven't looked into any filings or anything, but just looking at the chart, I would assume Elon or some funds loaded up here. Someone bought this to stop it from falling. So and then another higher low here. I like sell H a lot. It's not looking the best, but as long as this zone holds, as long as 30s hold, I still like it. I have this weekly fair value gap here that is holding. That's about it. No longer downtrend. So if we can go from downtrend to consolidation, go for next run, that would be ideal. AMD, I'm going to move this back up by the semis. Top tick this zone, and once again did. So we did not close above it. Not the most bullish, but if you look, low taken out, just like on NVDA, we have this. Low taken out, major gap down, blast up, higher low, higher high, higher low, and now he's seeking for a higher high to take this gap out and then this zone. Check the weekly. Weekly looks strong. We now have very strong green candles, higher low. Want to see that continue. Could draw that trend line on it. Microsoft. Almost started to look head and shouldery, but not so much anymore. I don't think we're fully out of the woods yet, but so we'll check this zone out. Beautiful. Boop, boop, boop. Check the mid of it. Mid bought, almost to the tick at the bottom, bought up, higher low, higher high. On the daily, so you can see, bunch of gap down, bought up, gap down, higher low, higher high, major push, and then we had a big capitulation, major gap down, massive push up, gap up, create higher highs, more higher highs, and then establish a solid higher low to create a higher high above right here. Love to see that. So next on the radar here would be to take out this gap here. Amazon, still in this uptrend, could not put a monthly body below. Wick got bought up in this monthly zone. Guess I'll draw it. Weekly looks great. Shows you more of what we could not see on the monthly. Higher low, higher high, higher low, closed, higher high. All-time highs on the way, very possible. This gap is next on the list. So tech's looking very bullish. I like it personally. Look at GameStop. This zone holding. Still getting bought up. Massive stick today. Attempting to fill the gap. So we'll see on that. Baba, looking great again. Added more to the Roth. Want to see this zone taken out. Did not close above it, just like about a month ago, so not as bullish as it could be, but it is China stock, so can't expect a whole lot. Crowd, we all know what happened with CrowdStrike, as you can see, but I look at it like Boeing, not so much anymore, but Boeing used to be a lot more resilient. Plane would crash, go down, dips would get bought. So as you can see, put in a bottom in his nice zone. Higher high, strong higher low, takeout gap for another higher high. So now this next gap is up on the list, and then we're almost out of the woods from all the bleeding from the CrowdStrike crash. So, and I don't mean price crash, I mean the actual system fundamental crash. Then I'm going to pull up that RSP, the equal weighted S&P, and compare it to the weighted. And I like that. It looks like we have good strength in the equal weighted, telling me that, telling me that it's not just tech pushing. Let's look at it on the daily. So we got equal weight, weighted. So they look about the same. So that's good. It's not showing too tech heavy. I like to see that. We'll look at oil. That's actually interesting. Had a bounce after FOMC and the rates were cut. Gas over by me was at 305. Of course, I saw it. Didn't take advantage of that. Should have filled up my 30-gallon tank and did not, but it's okay. Because it's back up to 350 here in Metro Detroit, but that's not what we're here to talk about, gas prices. So on the futures, we have this zone, bottom tick, higher high, higher low, range. So we created a box now from here to here, lower high, still a higher low, and you could either call this a lower low from here, but really I look at it as a higher low from here. So ideal for bull case would be higher low, range, higher low, and get out of this range. And I just want to look at SPY on the monthly just to show you a one last long term, because I feel like day traders don't look at this enough, and just looks beautiful. Clearly we're in a bull market, dips are getting bought. You know, it's not just going straight up, but markets don't always go straight up. We're so used to the post-COVID markets or anything like that. So I don't know why I said post-COVID pointing to 2015, but yeah, it's getting late here, and this video is a little longer than expected. And once again, if you guys like the longer videos, please comment. And if you don't, please comment as well. Constructive criticism's great, but there are timestamps, aka chapters, for that reason. So hope everyone has a great weekend, makes the best of it, studies. And this reminds me, I missed three key stocks. Apple, played that one. Bought down here, sold at the top of the gap on options. My goal was to I took a starter here, and I was expecting at least a bigger lower high to grab more. Was not able to, so my full scale was here for 90%, and as you can see, went a lot more than that. So does it hurt? Yes, but am I mad or upset? No, because that is trading. You don't look at what you shoulda, coulda. Don't be a shoulda, coulda trader. You take what you can get. If you got 2R, 4R, 5R, that you take it. You take it. Because my stop was here, so that's very good risk to reward. So we took this gap out. Not only took it out, created a gap. And didn't look back. And then we took out this gap. So, love to see it. Google, another one. Gapped and broke out of this wedge. Love to see it. Check out the weekly. Speaking of which, I didn't pull up the weekly on Apple. Looks very strong. Got a very nice W look. Would not be surprised if we see all-time high soon. PLTR, this one, I'm almost positive I brought it up on the previous market update. I was planning on longing in this box at towards the bottom for the best risk. I hesitated. My main focus are futures day trading, so I missed my entry on options here on equities, and beautiful gap up and potential path to all-time highs. Now this will be a major zone, so expect sellers here, but notice we closed today right at it. But yeah, so that's it. Once again, you guys heard me talk about, let me know if the video is too long, too short. If they're too short, you can skip ahead, and feel free to drop any other tickers you guys think I may have missed. So have a great weekend and study up, everybody.